Hello and welcome to Cloud Forest Vibes. My name's Bobby, and this is how I grow orchids and carnivorous plants. Hello and welcome to Cloud Forest Vibes. We're going to have a look around this morning. It's a beautiful morning and I have a whole lot of progress and things I want to show you guys. And I know I've been doing a lot of unboxing videos and mounting videos and stuff like that, so I figured we'd have a look around and take a look at all the progress and things to come, things that are in bloom, and everything that's just happening. Everything is really wonderful right now. So things are going really well. We've got a good stretch of weather. It's been really hot outside, but that makes it kind of perfect in here for the growing season. We haven't gotten above 81 or 82 degrees in this grow room. The only adverse effect has been the loss of one really anticipated flower, but we're going to take a look at that when we get to look around. So I will get this camera off the tripod and we're going to go ahead and start taking closer looks at some of the things going on in here and some of the blooms that we have. And we do have a really special new bloom. I'm going to save that for the end, but yeah, let's go ahead and see what we've got. First and foremost, let's start off with this guy. This is our Miltoniopsis Vexilaria that we recently mounted, and it is doing great actually. I did move it over to this side. It's getting a little bit of sun in the morning time for about 30 minutes, but mostly shade. And the Nepenthes plant that hangs in front of it really does a good job of giving it ample shade, but it's getting some bright light. It hasn't had any adverse effects from going on this mount so far. I've been keeping it nice and moist, and it really seems to enjoy it. Honestly, it really is doing well. So that is great news. And another one that we mounted recently is our Restrepia up here. This is the Restrepia Chameleon. I stuck this in a nice shady corner. It gets some bright light, but again, really doesn't get much sun at all. Maybe just a splash for a couple minutes in the morning. Really heavily shaded with the shade cloth and through a whole bunch of Spanish moss and plants, so I am not worried about it. Again, no adverse effects from the mounting so far. It seems to be doing really well. Another recent mount that is doing outstanding is this Dracula Hendersoniana. It's doing awesome. I don't know if you can tell or not, but it's maturing some buds. It's got two coming on right now. One is ahead of the other, but it is probably going to bloom pretty soon. So that was a gift from our friend Brenda over at Orchid Delirium. Thank you so much again. I'm going to go ahead and let this thing bloom, and I'm probably going to cut the spike because the plant definitely needs to get some strength back into it after its journey from Hawaii. But that is Dracula Hendersoniana, and it's looking like it's going to give us a bloom. The other plants that we got from Orchid Delirium, the Dendrobium tenuum, it seems to be just doing nothing right now, to be honest. It's just kind of hanging out, but I believe it's probably going to be a few weeks at least, maybe a month or more, before we see anything from this plant. It's green, so it's alive. It's a dendrobium, and I think that once it gets adjusted, it's going to do great. But it's on its mount here, hanging out near one of my dendrochilums and the Mormolica and some of my bulbophyllums and things like that in this relatively shady shelf. It gets some bright light, again, mostly artificial, but it's going to be just fine, I think. And finally, the Podangus Dactylosaurus. I'm going to say this wrong. Let me get this thing out of here. Our Podangus Dactylosaurus, also from Brenda over at Orchid Delirium, is doing great. I water this thing every other day. I just give it a quick little soak while it's in this pot. It is starting to push on some new root tips in the last couple days, so I'm going to consider getting it out of this pot and putting it on a mount. But for now, it's fine. It's been doing okay. I've got this on a shelf down here, right near some angraecoids, some bulbophyllums. things like that. They get bright light. My encyclias are down here, and it really does enjoy being down here so far. Again, 3 really cool plants from Brenda over at Orchid Delirium. I really can't thank you enough again. She added really awesome plants to this collection, so thank you so much. I can't wait to see how they go. Another recent remount in my remounting frenzy was this Mazdavalia Exquisito we got from Andy's Orchids. I did lose the spike on it, which is part of my tragic news, but totally forgot about this one, honestly, until I looked at it, so we can relive that together. I did lose the spike on it, and it started to drop a leaf, so I decided to get it off the mount immediately, get it on some fresh media and some cork bark instead of that cedar slab, and I think it looks a whole lot better, and hopefully it keeps producing new roots and keeps producing new growths, because it did have a nice root system, and I think it'll be saved. But so far so good. I've got it under the window, so it never gets any direct light, but it does get some pretty bright indirect light, and I think it's going to do just fine. I think it's going to be happy. Now our actual sad news, this is our Dracula Gaskeliana, and there's its spike. I do not know what happened, but the bloom started to inflate, it got color, it was doing good, and I think it was really close to opening, honestly, but it just blasted and shriveled up and dropped off. So I do not know, but the plant still seems to be okay. However, we did lose the bloom, sadly. So maybe it's the weather, maybe it's too hot, but I do look forward to hopefully seeing this thing bloom in the future, because it was exciting and it was shaping up to be a really nice bloom. So that's the bad news. Let's go check on something better. Our Cymbidiella that we got from Tarzan is growing. I don't know if you can tell or not, but that thing has definitely put on some size since we got it. It's put on lots of roots in the pot. I hope I didn't miss my window. I'm gonna have to get this thing out of this pot really soon. You guys will be along for the ride, but man, is it scary. I've heard from everybody that they hate to have their roots disturbed, so I'm nervous about it, but we're gonna have to get to that maybe later on today and get that on film. So that's another one. That is the Cymbidiella rhodochyla, and it is doing really nicely. Really big news, something I'm very excited about. I'm gonna have to try to get in here closer because you're gonna have a hard time seeing this. So this is my Sophronites pygmaea, and I remounted it very recently and got it off that stick, and it really hasn't missed a beat. I don't know if you can tell that or not, but right here on this leaf, it opened up its newest growth, and inside there is a bud. So very exciting. We're gonna have a Sophronites bloom. That'll be my first Sophronites bloom as long as it makes it. So I'm super excited about it. Pygmaea is an awesome species. I think it's Cattleya pygmaea now, but it is Sophronites in this grow house. So I did remount actually this morning, the new Epidendrum magnoliae that I got from Tarzan, and it split up into 3, I believe, seedlings. They look like orchids that were deflasked pretty recently, so they've grown on quite nicely. They were attached to the mount that they were on, so I extracted them off and I put them here on their own piece of cork, and I think they're just going to smother this little piece in no time, take over. They're all growing, they all have good roots. I did not get that on film. I was in kind of a hurry, but that is our Epidendrum magnoliae, and it is doing really well as well. Lots of progress with all these new orchids. I think the biggest bout of progress that we've got, let me take this off here so it's not backlit, is our Catasetum schunkii. You saw this get mounted not long ago, and it is already taken off. The new growth is exploding. It's starting to, I think, start to push out its first leaves, and I don't know if you can see that down there, but it's got roots, and they are just starting to get down on the mount and attached. They're about, I'd say, a ½ inch long at the biggest one right there. But we've got several more weeks to go, several more weeks of no water, and watching this thing just grow its head off. The other pseudobulbs are still pretty plump, and I think it's going to be just fine based off of all the advice I've gotten from everybody. So that is exciting. Our Tolumnia is still in bloom, looking gorgeous. And I don't know if you remember what it looked like a few days ago. Actually, it's been about a week or so now. But when I told you this thing was a supreme color changer, did you believe it would do that? I mean, look at that thing. That's why this is my favorite Tolumnia that I have actually gotten to bloom. And man, it's exciting to see it again. The blooms are usually relatively long lasting, but I don't know with this heat, so we'll see how it goes. We'll just have to enjoy it for now. But that is Tolumnia Red Crystal. I think it's a Jerac Firm Red Crystal, and it's just so exciting that it's still here with us. Another exciting orchid that's still with us is our beautiful, beautiful Encyclia tampensis. And this thing is just a stunner. It fills up this whole tent with fragrance, and it's just got beautiful, beautiful flowers. They've been pretty long lasting. They've been with us since July 4th is when the first one opened, and I'm excited to see just how long they will stick in with us. Another one that's been lasting good, but I think is finally on its way out, is the Maxillary Attenuafolio. I've noticed the lip is getting pretty dark, and I think the first two are on their last legs. We did have two other blooms open up later on, but they do not have that color, so we should have blooms that hang on for a while. But I have been impressed. These have been around for over a month, so I'm super excited. Another one on its way out is our friend Dendrobium Milano Glossum, and it's starting to fade. You see it's losing the top and the bottom flowers. The middle three are still hanging in there, but I think that I may cut this spike off here in a few days or so and get some strength back into this plant, though I'm not quite sure it needs it. It is growing, growing, growing. Another awesome one. Really, really excited about this plant. Our Hariella odorata, or Hariella retrocala, is back in bloom. Pushed out a third bloom on this spike, and I believe the spike is still continuing to extend. And, much to my surprise, looking up in it, it has started to produce not one, but two more spikes. So that's going to be the best performance we've had yet. It produced 3 spikes last year, but one of them only produced 1 flower and then stopped going. So I'm excited to see this doing so well, and I cannot wait to see it full of blooms again, because it was quite a spectacle last year. About the same time frame, but it is doing okay. I did drop it, I damaged the leaves. Otherwise, no issues at all with this plant. It is doing great. Love this bloom. Our faithful and beautiful Phalaenopsis orchids are still here, blooming their heads off. The white one is really the showstopper. Has 180 degrees of blooms. It really is a great spike that it put out. This is its second round of blooming from this spike, and it is just awesome. And Old Faithful has still got the last late bloomer, the one bud that it pushed on, and I couldn't be happier about it. I do love this little orchid. It's just got character. It almost died twice on me. Another one of my learning experience orchids, but I really do like it. I think that they make a nice little combination here, the pink and the white. And we're going to move on to our final 2 blooms, and by far the most special. We've been waiting. We've watched the buds together, and we finally have our Neophenesia Falcata that we can look at together. It's beautiful. I love this flower. I've always admired it, and this is my first time seeing it in this greenhouse. This plant has struggled, it's suffered, and I finally have a grasp on how to grow them at least okay. And I just wanted to show you guys this because this spike is getting cut. I want to get the strength back into these plants and make sure that they push on and produce plantlets of their own, and I can really call this orchid saved. But it's just a beautiful sight. I love these. My samurai orchid. And finally, oh, let me see. Oh my goodness. I just noticed something. Not finally, but look at this. I just found a bud. Well, yeah, that one's gonna blast if it hasn't already. I just found a bud on my Maikai. My BC Maikai, Louise. And that's another one. I'll probably let it open up, but that one's gonna have to get cut off. This plant needs strength. It does not need to bloom. How about that though? Neat. Well, here we go. Now, this is my favorite flower in the greenhouse right now. For many reasons, but look how delicate that is. This is the Brassavola regina, and I am so excited. This is my first species Cattleya type bloom, my first Brassavola bloom. I've waited a long time to see this flower, and it is just beautiful right now. Let's get in a little closer if we can. So that is Brassavola regina. I have not been in here at night to smell it yet. I tried yesterday right after the lights went out, and it just wasn't ready. But it's got a beautiful, beautiful bloom. And again, I have waited so long to see this flower. My first Cattleya type species, I should say. Cattleya type species. So, very exciting. And with the news of the Sophronites pygmaea hopefully not too long to follow, I really couldn't be happier. So that's going to do it. That's going to wrap our video up for the day. I just had to show you guys this in the natural light in the morning. Very, very special. Very exciting bloom. Hope you guys are staying safe. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. And until next time, happy growing. Hey, can I have my shoes? Please? I need them. I kind of need my shoes. Do you mind if I just get in here and try to get my shoes? Yeah. I'm just gonna try to. I just want my shoes. Yeah. It's okay. Just one. One. Yep. We're gonna go for two. Oh, look at that. Can't be bothered.